And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. This is the show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. I'm Dean Beckman, joined once again by my co-host Donnie Netto, our Sports Information Director at St. Mary's. And as we do each and every week, we highlight and feature one of the sports at St. Mary's. And today we bring in Dr. Jamison Rusthoven. Jamison is the head coach for our men's basketball team. So Jamison, welcome back to the Cardinals Nest.
Thank you. It's good to
And
be here.
an exciting season ready to get started. And we're going to let Donnie get started with our questions
Sounds
today.
good.
Actually,
Sounds
Coach, before we even talk X's and O's in the basketball, I know one of the things that has become one of the prides that you have is the way your student athletes have excelled in the classroom. You look at the last couple of years, NABC Honor Court, you were recognized as a team by the NABC. Talk a little bit about that, because that is really what we talk about with this Division III. You're a student athlete, you're a student first, and your players are really kind of showing that really since you've taken over the helm.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, before we get into my student athletes, I would like to publicly thank you. For those who do not know, it is SID week, and we have one of the best in the business, without a doubt. And he does things behind the scenes that nobody knows he does. Probably the only other person who's there as much as he is Maddie Sager. So those two are a huge backbone of what we do. And you know, you throw in there Tony Winter too, who keeps the office running. We get fortunate to be able to sit here in front of everybody, but at the same time, they're the ones, the brains behind the operation that move us. So I appreciate all that
Thanks,
you
Coach.
do.
Appreciate
big
that.
time,
Very nice.
big
Thank you.
time. So, yes, athletes classroom, yes, big deal. You know, we've, as I was talking to Ty earlier, we've been trying to move this thing through and control what we can control. Without scholarships, it's really hard to control how fast you get your athletes. You know, it's a lot easier when you can dangle, you know, I can pay for this or I can pay for that. Over that, they come a lot quicker. But we've really tried to handle what we can control. And for us, as we continue to grow this program and to start getting the principles put in place, we had to focus on the classroom. You know, that is one of the things that has been big for us, and I'm proud of that. Yes, we had the first ever program National Merit Award from NABC, National Association of Basketball Coaches, and for that you had to have a whole team roster GPA average of 3.2 or higher. So I was excited about that. We've had, in the last 2 years, we've had 9 on the honors court, which is from the same association. And the other thing that I'm even more excited about is the fact that we've had 6 all-conference academic players in the last 2 years. And I say that because the previous years, you know, if I go back even to 2008 to 2013, there was only 1. So we've done some really good things. We've handled what we can handle, and that part has been fun. And now to see them taking their next steps, it was great. Will Swigum and Chad Schlosser were back last weekend for the Red-White game. They were coaching that. You know, Will just signed a contract to play for the Lacrosse Showtime in the American Basketball Association. Chad just passed his P1 exam, which is a ridiculous exam that I call them all my numbers guys. The actuaries get to take. Q Smith Pugh is running his own business up in the cities, which he kind of started down here in Winona. And, you know, Wiley Farron, who was the rock for our program for so many years, is a graduate teacher's assistant at Oregon State, which is one of the best engineering schools in the nation. And not to mention Mark Schumacher, who, you know, is running his own youth leadership, youth pastoral ministries up in the Twin Cities. So of our 6 graduates, you know, and Aaron Ramporto, and I can't forget about him. He's got his own classroom and teaching up in Sartell, and is going to help with the Sartell boys basketball team as 10th grade coach. So our 6 seniors over the last couple of years have done some remarkable things. But again, I think so much of it has been based because of what we've done in the classroom.
Can you talk a little bit more about, you mentioned, you know, we're D3, you don't get any recruiting scholarships. Talk about your recruiting philosophy, your approach as you go to these kids. What do you sell them on to get them to come to St. Mary's?
Opportunity to play in one of the best leagues in the nation. Now, granted, I'm not going to give you my, mine and Coach Brown's little black book and, all of our hints and tips and ideas how we're going to move this thing forward. But it's the opportunity to play. As I tell recruits, it's really important to me that our investment in you is 40 years. I'm not interested in the 4. What we do for 4 years is important, but I also tell the parents that this is a very small part of what they're doing. I'm invested in the 40 years. I want them to yes, be men. I get that. I think that's overrated, but realistically, I want them to come out of a program learning how to eventually be good husbands, to be good fathers, and to be really good community members, giving back regardless of what it is. It could be in church, it could be just in their neighborhood, they could be the dad that has the greenest grass. But something that contributes to those, because all those little things matter. So we talk about that a lot. And again, go back to the league that we have. They did, D3 Hoops did a poll last year and did some research on some certain things to find out which leagues were the best. And we're top 5 over the last 15 years. We're top 5 league in the nation. So you get to play against the best. And the fact that we can do all these other opportunities as a university that has all these connections and all these wonderful things. I mean, you look at some of the other people that came out before I did. I mean, Preston Black, who played for me my first year, is with the Los Angeles Rams. And, you just check down this list. Obviously, the big one is McDonough. I mean, that's the one who kind of oversees everything else. But we're starting to get all these wonderful little branches now that are student athletes with these great experiences. That's one of the stuff that we really, really sell.
On this show before, you've talked about the process. Mm-hmm. And I think that's sort of what we're talking about here, right? And that's one of the things that you take to recruits. So maybe, tell us, what is that process for the viewers that haven't seen before? How do you envision the process, and how does it play out now over the span of 5 years and as you continue here at St. Mary's?
As I was telling Ty likes to pick my brain a lot as we walk in here, and I enjoy having conversation with him. Because, again, he takes his craft seriously, as do I. So it's fun to listen and have those conversations and get some questions that sometimes make me think about stuff. And as I told Ty, we're process step number 2, year 1. Mm-hmm. The gentleman that I just talked about helped move our process forward over those first 4 years that we were here. And what they did is, when they came and they started to play for me, as I've told some recruits this year, that group had to go off of promises, trust, and blueprints because there's nothing that they could see. They had to just take my word for it. They had to dive feet first and just hope that this thing was going to work. Now the recruits that we're getting and the kids that we're talking to actually can see the structure of the house. They can go to the second floor and see the view. As I joke, they can see where the putting green's going to be. They're going to be able to see where the pool's going to be, which is a lot different. And it has opened us up to a lot different type of athlete with a lot more interest, because now that you can see it, and again, it's not necessarily about the wins, because again, if it was about the wins in a program like ours, then we wouldn't be able to boast those yet. But most of the really good athletes want to have an opportunity to compete and be pushed to the highest level and have opportunities when they're done. So now they can see with the GPAs, with the competitiveness, with the fact that, yeah, we lost a lot of tough ones last year when our team could have quit. We're at St. Thomas, number 7 in the nation, second to the last game of the year, and it's a 3-point ball game with 2 minutes left. That's kind of some mile markers for us to show that, okay, we're doing it correctly. We can't make it happen as fast as we would like, but the process is unfolding the way that it should. So now it's time to move it to the next level, and that's why I say process number 2, step number 1, that's where we're at this year.
Process number 2, step number 1 for me is getting to know your team. With 11 freshmen, there's a lot of names that I don't recognize and haven't. I'm looking forward to getting to see you guys play next Wednesday. But because of that, talk a little bit about this team as you head into your exhibition game against Western Illinois. A lot of new faces, probably people in different positions they're not used to. Talk a little bit about how the preseason has gone and what we can expect heading into Saturday.
Our guys are ready to see other color jerseys. There's no doubt. You know, and again, our test is not going to be easy, being at Western Illinois, taking on a Division I opponent, but it's going to give us a real test really fast. It's going to give us an idea of, you know, who's going to be able to do what in games as opposed to practice. We've all seen hundreds of thousands of practice players in our lifetime, but last time I checked, practice players don't win championships. So it's going to give us a good opportunity with that. We're very different than we've been in the past. We've been very intentional to get guys that can do multiple things. A couple of things, even though I loved our guys the last couple of years to death, we were really one-dimensional. You know, Wiley Farron, he was going to be stuck close to the basket. He was going to be a rebounder, and he's going to be in the post all the time, no matter what. You know, it was appropriate that he made a three his last, last shot of his senior year in the last game. However, we all know and we all smile because that was an exception to the rule. You know,
which I believe that three, everyone on the roster made a three-pointer last year. So.
Yes, exactly.
So he helped out with that.
And then, you know, whenever Q shot the three, it was a prayer. You know, he made the sign of the cross before it went up every time because you never knew.
Right.
You know, but these guys that we have now are going to be much more diverse. They can do a lot of different things. They can handle the basketball. They can shoot from behind the arc. They can score close to the post. It just makes us much tougher to defend. Able to do a lot of different things and run a lot of different looks, which in our league we have to be able to do. I mean, you look at how basketball has evolved over the last couple of years. I mean, the finals in the NBA last year, you know, LeBron was playing center as a 6'8" guard. So it's changed quite a bit. You look at what the Warriors have done and all these other things, and there's a natural trickle-down effect, of course. Happens all the time. So we're trying to embrace that. We want to try to get much more diverse on what we can do, and we have some young men that I'm excited to be able to watch over the next 4 years.
In years past, you may have approached maybe the non-conference games a little differently than you might this year because you have so many young players. How important are these early games as you prepare for what you said, one of the toughest conferences in the nation?
Definitely different. You know, they are important. Our exhibitions, we will treat as exhibitions against Western Illinois and Winona State. We want to play hard. We want to get everybody some minutes. But since we're at process number 2, they're important. While, yes, we're young, the expectation is to win. You know, my first year, in the first part of the process, it was a hope to be competitive and see what we can do. Well, now that competitiveness is a given, now it's about wins. It's about handling our business outside of our conference because our conference is such a grind. That this is a group, this is, again, and I haven't helped us much this year with 2 of our non-conferences games being against WIAC opponents. But the ones that, you know, again, talking about relativity, the ones that we should win, we need to win. And that's kind of that next process, that next step where, yes, we may be young, but we're not going back to just being competitive. We need to continue to move this thing forward on that next segment.
We've talked a little bit about your assistant coach, Kyle Brown.
Yes.
And, you know, no question, a terrific basketball mind. Now,
yes.
He's in year 2 with you.
Which is so nice.
Which is nice, right? So
yes.
Does his role change, or you know what to expect now from him? He knows what you're looking for. So how do you see his role with this year's team?
It's huge. You know, and again, it's part of moving the next, and again, you want to have young coaches that you want to move in to do some wonderful things. I never thought when I hired Coach Malvick, you know, my first year that he would be at Winona State the next year. I knew it would eventually happen. I was hoping for 2 or 3 years, not 1. You know, then Ryan Wackenfuss was there for a couple as a part-time assistant in admissions, and then, you know, he's over at Lawrence doing some wonderful things, and Matt Johnson came in, and again, he ended up being the head basketball coach and now the athletic director at Bay College in Michigan. So I can't fault it, and I'm excited that I can move our guys and our staff can have great opportunities moving from ours, but it also, to have Kyle Brown for year number 2 has been phenomenal because now there's a trust factor there. The opportunity to be able to delegate things, which I've not normally delegated in the past, has taken some off my plate, and he, as you've said, he is 100% all basketball. That's what he loves. That's what he does. He's got great experience, and to be able to get a young man in the prime of his career who's excited to do the things he's doing at a new level for him in new ways has been, truthfully, the only way I could put it is a godsend for us to help us with that next step. Really important.
You know, one of the things I've noticed, Coach, in the 5 years you've been here is you include your family, your family in your basketball family, and talk a little bit about the importance of that, because I know with Trey, we talk about Trey a little bit, and how he's there for warm-ups, he's in the locker room, he kind of melds with these teams.
Right.
But talk about the importance of really kind of making sure that you take care of your family as well as your basketball family.
Well, before we talk about Trey, I need to make sure I say hi to Ashley, because my daughter Ashley's always kind of the secondary as well. Biggest cheerleader and supporter that we have as well.
Hey, real quick, I have a story about Ashley. I had the pleasure of, just by chance, going through the softball team's haunted forest with your wife and Ashley.
Yes.
She has a set of lungs on her, and she made it fun for everyone. And then we got out, and I said, I'm going with her next year.
Very nice. I had heard. She was pretty excited.
That was great.
Yeah, that was one of her birthday traditions that she does, that it happens to be her birthday's October 24th, so it's always right there. So that's one of the things that they do every year, so that's been fun. But yeah, it's a big deal. You know, we're kind of the exception to the rule here in Winona because, you know, my wife and I celebrate 25 years this summer, and we have a 6th grader and a 7th grader. You know, we traveled and I worked on my career so much early when we were early married, so now we're really entrenched in what goes on here. You know, the last couple of years, as you mentioned, I've had the pleasure to coach my son. You don't get an opportunity to do that in many places. So as a 4th grader, 5th grader, 6th grader, I've coached him and a handful of his buddies in a spring AAU program. We're looking to probably move it to a summer this year, just because as 7th graders now they have access to some of the varsity things. Trey will probably be playing some golf and things like that this spring with Coach Hoganson. But it's been a fun part of this because there's some really good youth opportunities going on. You know, and that's one of them. Yeah, we try to make sure the family's included, but at the same time, it's also fun. You know, my kid's best friends, or close friend, and my daughter's best friend who was with that night is Molly Casillas, who is the daughter of the head football coach, John Casillas, who's had wonderful success over the last few years. And again, he's a tribute to the process. You know, as I've gotten to know more about Winona, you know, he has some really lean years as he started this thing, and now finished this whole year with an undefeated record, #1 in the state at their level the entire year. Great opportunity. My son also is a ball boy for him, so that's been a fun experience. And again, with Trey's football, he played football this year, and to watch it trickle down from the high school. Coach Sawyer from Winona State, his son was Trey's coach this year. So it's got this really cool web that's, you know, all over. And we're fortunate enough to have kids that are in the midst of it. And again, it's important because I want them to be involved. It's fun for them to have friends. It's fun for them. It's important for them to have friends because of my job, because of the pressure that comes with it, being a collegiate coach, with the expectations, for them to be able to have a network, to be able to understand it as well, have other friends whose dads are coaches as well. It just helps them be coaches' kids because it's a unique thing. And we really do try to focus on that. I try to make their practices. I try to make sure, like this afternoon, I'm going to quick sneak over to Trey's middle school practice for the first time. Try to get to Ashley's volleyball games. So if you're not intentional about it with this job, it can get carried away very dangerously. And then we only have one opportunity at this. So I try to be very intentional about making sure that while we only have one shot at being a really good dad, I try to do the best I can with this career that I've chosen.
And one of the things you've done too over the years is making sure that your basketball family also gets involved in the community.
Yes.
So tell us about some of those programs, and you know, as you sort of look ahead, maybe some plans there.
Well, you know, it's always such a tough tough way to juggle things because they're pulled in so many different ways. You know, so we really try to do a few things with some buddy opportunities, which is for some you know, mentally challenged, physically challenged students that come up to St. Mary's, adults, and they love basketball, so we do some things with that over the past years. We try to, you know, my thing is to try to get them to understand that there's more than just them. And if you're going to be good at what you do, you have to understand that this isn't just about you. So there's various things, and again, do we do as much as I'd like? No, because again, they, with their classroom stuff, with their time in the weight room, with their time on the floor, their time that I try to give them with just to be teenagers, it makes it really, really hard. But at the same time, if we can develop them well, if we can give them little opportunities, little shots here or there, some of the stuff we've done with the YMCA in the past, big thing that we've done is they come back for camp and work with the kids there as their coaches. Those things are just invaluable to get them to understand that, yeah, it isn't, the universe doesn't just revolve around me. And it is important for me to give back in a lot of different ways.
Coach, just a minute left here. What haven't we asked that you would like to know either about the team or about this upcoming season?
We're excited. You know, we're excited. It's going to be probably the most up and down season that we've had in a long time, just because we've got 11 guys that have no idea what to expect. So that'll be fun. The fact that we'll be able to compete in a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different areas, do a lot of things that we haven't done, it will be fun. But there'll also be times this year where people are going to be like, oh my gosh, what are we thinking about? What was that all about? Because again, that's what comes with youth. But again, we're excited, we're anxious, it's going to be fun. We have some good leadership even though it's young. And these guys are hungry. This is their thing. So we don't have a lot of other distractions with this group. They just love basketball. They love to be student athletes, and that's going to make it really fun.
All right, Jamison Rusthoven, thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
on the show today.
I appreciate
Good
you
luck
having
here
me
this season. And we'll be back. Donnie and I will be right back to wrap things up here on the Cardinals Nest on HBC.
NASCAR racing is about a whole lot more than just cars going around a track. It's about people who drive, people who engineer, people who plan, people who know how to put it all together. Meet the people who make the cars go round every week on Raceline. Watch Raceline here every week.
What's a Southern girl? It's waking up before the sun rises. It's loving the simple things in life like the dirt roads that lead you home. It's working hard to get what you want. It's hanging your own stands, breaking your own ground, and strategizing every little move for that one moment when everything you've worked for is standing right in front of you. Even if I fail a million times, I keep pushing myself till I'm exhausted, filthy, and about to give up. And that's when the adrenaline hits.
Isn't it the worst when your kids are trying to do homework and the webpage won't load? Or you're trying to buy airline tickets to your next vacation destination and the checkout keeps timing out? When you switch to HBC's fast and reliable broadband internet service, these frustrations will be a thing of the past. Not only is the service fast and reliable, but it's backed by a 30-day guarantee and free local 24/7 Wizards technical support. Visit hbci.com to learn more or call 888-474-9995.
And we're back here on the Cardinals Nest on HBC to wrap up this week's program. Dean Beckman alongside St. Mary's Sports Information Director Donnie Netto. And Donnie, great interview there with Jamison Rusthoven, our head men's basketball coach. And there really is some excitement in the air about this year's basketball team because of its youth, and I think a lot of talent on this year's team.
And you know, I wasn't kidding when I told them I'm looking forward to seeing them play because they have so many new faces, and I think that the excitement is there for basketball in general as they open up, both teams will open up their regular season officially against Martin Luther next Wednesday, and so both teams are going to be at home. It'll be nice to see them play, and I know, as Coach said, they're chomping at the bit to play somebody besides themselves. So you know, a lot of excitement around the basketball programs right now.
Yep. And also a lot of excitement around the hockey programs. Last Friday here on HBC, we saw the St. Mary's men defeat St. Thomas by the score of 4-1. They go out the next night at St. Thomas and do it again in different fashion. It was they got 1 point in a shootout victory over the Tommies.
Yeah, it was a great weekend for the Cardinals. If you told Coach Moore before the weekend that he was going to take 5 of a possible 6 points off of the Tommies, he probably would have said you're crazy. And that doesn't mean that he didn't trust his players, but you know, St. Thomas, one of the best teams in the conference, they played an outstanding weekend. We covered the game or we called the game on Friday, and they played an outstanding game. It was a much closer game than the 4-1 final score indicated, but a great performance all the way around. Tip your cap to Aaron Davis, gave up 1 goal in each game, stopped all 3 shootout Tommy shooters, and so we got gave them the extra point there, was named MIAC Athlete of the Week for his efforts. He's only given up 4 goals in 4 games, and you know, 0.99 goals against and a .962 save percentage. And for those that don't really know those numbers, those are impressive as impressive can be. So a great start for them. A huge weekend this weekend. They've got Stevens Point on Friday. They're ranked 5th in the nation. Then they've got Eau Claire on Saturday. They're ranked 11th. And then the following weekend they've got Augsburg, and they're ranked 4th. So a busy 2 weeks of a very, very good competition.
But certainly a lot of confidence going into that game. And you know, the second best thing about beating St. Thomas last Friday night, we got to introduce to HBC's Alyssa Kozak the sport of hockey.
Absolutely.
So that was the second best thing to come out of that. Now the women's hockey team, they did not play last week, kind of a rare week off early in the season here. But talking to one of the players, she says it was kind of good because the preseason grind can be real for these players as they learn to get in hockey shape and all of that. So she said the week off was good, gave them some good perspective. They're 2-0 now as they continue their season against St. Thomas.
Yeah, it really was a good time for a break. You know, you got those first 2 non-conference games, you played, you see what you need to work on, then you actually get 2 weeks to actually work on those aspects that you found in those first 2 games that maybe are lacking or need to be improved on. And I know Coach Moore, the other Moore, Coach Greg Moore, is excited to get a shot at the Tommies. And you know, I was very impressed with the way the Cardinals played in those first 2 games. So I'm excited to see them play against arguably one of the best teams in the conference. They're ranked 8th in the country as well. So it's going to be a very big weekend for the Cardinals, and they start on the road on Friday, and then they'll be back here on Saturday. Big doubleheader of hockey action on Saturday here at the St. Mary's Ice Arena.
A minute left. The one winter sport we haven't covered at all this season on the Cardinals Nest, of course, swimming and diving. Later on, we'll get Amber Bartholomew, the head coach, on, but when do they begin?
They actually have had 2 meets. They had a small meet here at St. Mary's, and then last weekend they were up at Hamlin. And you get to be the first one to be corrected. It's now Coach Lowe, since she got married. Congratulations, okay, Amber. Good. So yeah, don't worry, I've done it 2 or 3 times. So they've really gotten off to a great start, and I know that that Coach Lowe is excited about what she's seeing. A lot of talented freshmen and newcomers on this team, and or on both teams actually. And I know that when she comes on, she's going to have a lot to talk about because there are some very, very good swimmers, and I expect them to do a lot of good things as they prepare, as we always talk about, for those 3 days at the end of February when they go to the MIC Championships.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching here on HBC.